49ers have 4 weapons: Kittle, Ayuk, McCaffrey, and Deebo Samuel, and a really, really good quarterback. So the fact that they have 4 weapons means they have an extra weapon. If one of those guys gets hurt or one of those guys misses a game, they're still really, really good because they have a really good quarterback and 3 really good players at the skill position. My point was they can maintain even if they are missing one of those guys because they still have very good skill position players at different positions. Now, you want to miss 2 of those guys in the same game, that's going to be trouble. 2 of those guys in multiple games, that's going to be trouble.
And I think that the 49ers are in a position where I do believe they could lose one of those players, not have them. Now, in a playoff game or against another top-tier opponent, and there aren't very many, if any, right now in their class outside of the Eagles, I think they could lose one of those guys and still play at this level offensively. But I also don't think that the loss, because the hypothetical you presented before the break was, well, if Brock Purdy wasn't making $800,000, if he had to make 30 average million. Quarterback money,
right?
35. I mean, Daniel Jones makes $40 million, but in that ballpark, you might have to lose one of them,
right?
I don't think that they would lose someone offensively. And I think it might be someone on the defensive side of the ball that they'd lose.
Perhaps. I wasn't necessarily getting that specific, E. I was just saying I feel like they're loaded like the Warriors were loaded with Durant. When you had Curry, Durant, Clay, and Draymond in their primes, I remember saying to JD, they just need 1.5 guys to play well. 1.5. If they get 2, they win. They win. And obviously they get 2 most of the time. If they get 3, it's over. That's kind of what I mean about the Niners. If they have all those weapons at their disposal, they may be unbeatable. Or they may be unstoppable offensively. That just may be a fact.
And also, I mean, but what was a big reason why they're able to get Kevin Durant in the first place?
Because
the salary cap went up.
That's
and the salary cap in the NFL will continue to go up. And there's been stories written about how the 49ers might be able to keep all of this together until Brock Purdy has to be paid. And that's not going to be for another couple of years. But I would also point people towards the Philadelphia Eagles as an example of a team that can be kept together and maintain a high level of play, even if you have to pay your quarterback. Because I think people immediately look to Patrick Mahomes and they say, well, he got $500 million. Look, he lost Tyreek Hill and he lost other weapons on his offense, but he's still producing. He's still incredible. Well, the Eagles just paid Jalen Hurts. They still have A.J. Brown, who makes a lot of money. They still have Devontae Smith, who's going to get paid probably a decent amount of change. You swapped out running backs, but DeAndre Swift is paid a decent amount. You still have an expensive offensive line. You still have a good defense. I don't think that the 49ers are as afraid of being in salary cap hell as people are putting them in. And that's why I don't think they necessarily have to worry about a situation where they're down 1 or 2 guys.
Why? I don't know the specifics, but if it sounds to me like, yes, the 49ers are going to be able to kick the can down the road this year and the next 2 years, right? Because Brock Purdy has this year, then 2 more years at minimal money. So just knowing that almost sets up, to me, an automatic window. See what we can do in the next 2.5 years. I mean, what Nahegian came into our meeting today and was just talking about Brock Purdy and the improbability of the last pick in the draft, and now he could be the MVP, and how sports are just incredible. And this is why we watch sports, because nobody heard of Brock Purdy, and now he's the story of the NFL. And he's absolutely right. But to me, it also is a reminder, things can change like that. Just like that. It was supposed to be Trey Lance doing this. Trey Lance can't play. Brock Purdy's really good. So the fact that Purdy's under a rookie deal, not even a rookie deal, less than a rookie deal, for the next 2.5 years, it creates an unprecedented window if Purdy actually is this good. If he's actually this good, then they have a 2.5-year window.
And if Purdy is this good, which I have no reason to believe that he's not, then let me ask you this.
Yeah.
And I know you hate this question. Should the 49ers win the Super Bowl?
Well, yeah, I would say
in the next 2.5 years, if that window's open, they should win the Super Bowl.
Well, you're going to call me crazy, but...
Well, I do that a lot.
Yes. But, okay, if they don't win the Super Bowl this year or the next 2 years, well, then they got a decision to make on Purdy, and by that point, we should have enough evidence, one way or the other, where I know this is crazy, 49er fans, but in 2.5 years, we'll be saying, Brock can't get it done. Or we'll be saying, you got to pay Brock because he got it done.
See, and I keep coming back to the head coach. I think the conversation will be just as loud. Actually, I think it would be louder. I don't think it would be so much about Brock Purdy. I think it would be about Kyle Shanahan. Because Brock Purdy is the best quarterback he's had in San Francisco. There, as of now, doesn't appear to be a flaw in his game. And if Kyle Shanahan cannot win the Lombardi Trophy and hoist it with a quarterback that is putting together the best 10-game stretch to begin a career of any guy that's been under center, then I think that noise is directed at Shanahan more than Brock Purdy. And that's why I also think that as much as we have held his feet to the fire and we've criticized him both fairly and unfairly, I do think he deserves his flowers for what the start of this season has been, which is damn near perfect. And that's why also, if they don't get it done in the next 2.5 years, I think if they don't get it done this year, assuming there's not a catastrophic injury, or I think it would take multiple catastrophic injuries for me to not believe that this team is the best team in football.
What if they just have a bad game? If they have a bad game. Eagles come in the NFC championship game, and Brock just has a bad game. Like a lot of young players do in the postseason.
Has Brock Purdy had a bad game?
No.
Have the 49ers played a bad game thus far?
Well, the Eagles game was a joke. Now, how much of that was
I'm
Purdy?
saying this year.
Oh, no.
No, last year's last year.
Right.
The window starts this year because Brock Purdy proved that he is healthy. Like, we haven't talked about his offseason elbow surgery at all.
Right.
Because of how freaking good he's been.
Right.
We haven't talked about much his draft status unless people want to use it to downplay him. We haven't talked about anything that has happened from last season that's carried over into this year. Even the Bosa holdout, a contract negotiation situation, which was probably the biggest thing in my mind that was kind of a question mark entering this year. That's not a problem anymore. There's nothing that happened preceding the start of the regular season that would tell me that this isn't going to continue. The only thing that I can foresee is, sure, a bad game. But I don't think that bad game happens unless they play a better team than them. And I don't see another team around the league outside of Philadelphia that even has an argument to make right now.
No, but by the same...
any given Sunday, I get that.
To me, if you ask me what the 49ers' biggest not weakness, but what might get them beat, I think now it's becoming clear. I think the protection for Brock Purdy has been terrific. I think it's been A-, B+. Now, I think he's got a way of quarterbacking that takes pressure off that. He is just amazing at evading and just buying himself another second or two that allows the rush not to get to him. He really does. So if they can continue to do that, then I do think teams are in trouble. The minute that he starts trying to figure out where he needs to go to evade the team, then I think you got something to work with. But just naturally, if he's got this much time to throw, who is going to beat him? Give me a break.
And that's just the other part of it too, is the defense on the other side, for example, this weekend against the Browns, if there's rain, if I think the Browns have a really good defense, they could have a good game against Brock Purdy. They might be able to limit him far more than the Dallas Cowboys did.
Right.
That still doesn't mean I think they're going to lose. Like, Brock Purdy has been putting up 30 points consistently every single game, all but one in the regular season. But just because he doesn't put up 30 points in a game doesn't mean that they still can't win the football game.
Exactly. Wait till Purdy throws 2 interceptions, one for a pick 6. Okay? You with me?
Sure. Well.
And the 49ers win 16-10. Like, and people will be like, uh-oh. And I'll be like, don't you get it? That's what great teams do. Or the game where the 49ers defense will stink and Brock Purdy will win a game 38-35. Like, that's, to me, like, they haven't even had to do that yet. That hasn't even been on the table yet. And they're going to, by the end of the season, I guarantee you, they'll win a couple games. They'll win a game like an ugly game like that, and they'll win a shootout, I'll bet. I'll bet you any money.
Yeah, over the course of 17 games, I'd hope they'd have to go through some adversity because I think a lack of it might hurt them come postseason time. But that's way down the line. Like, the Cleveland Browns have 2 of the top 5 corners in football. They have an amazing pass rusher and run stopper in Myles Garrett. Zadarius Smith is a really good defensive end. They have some good line. But that doesn't matter. Because I also think that Brock Purdy is aware enough that if the game is not going the way he needs it to, and this is where I also think Kyle Shanahan comes into play. Kyle Shanahan last year talked about how he's evolved as a head coach that is not just a play caller anymore. He's not just trying to put up the most points on another team, even though that's what they've seemingly done since Brock Purdy's taken over. He also must understand the situational aspect of a given game, and that's maybe where he's had some shortcomings, specifically in the playoffs. But for a regular season game like Cleveland, if Brock Purdy's not having a good game, well, then I think Kyle Shanahan knows that all he has to do is he can put the ball on the ground, he can give it to 23, he can dump it off short, might take a deep shot here and there.
Some quick
slants. He's going to play it slate. He's going to play it safe.
Exactly right.
And that's only if he has to, because Brock has unlocked the aggression that Jimmy Garoppolo could not in this offense.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. I don't think people would disagree with that. 888-957-9570 is the number. 49ers at Cleveland Sunday, 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock, and can they go to 6-0?